Shogun, episode 1, the pilot. This aired on FX. I don't think it airs on FX with audio description. I don't know if FX is a channel that has live audio description or not. I don't stay up late enough. I like to go to bed at an appropriate hour and then watch my streaming the next day on Hulu. So I watched this on Hulu with audio description. Fair warning, this is just a pilot review. I'm not planning on recapping Shogun for the run of the show, but I do believe it's important to talk about pilots. We don't do it enough. A lot of shows get straight to series orders. They get ordered in bunches now for streaming services, and the art of crafting a solid pilot is lost. And I'm noticing it more and more with shows, especially shows that have large casts. So does Shogun do the deal? It does have audio description, so that's one box checked off on Hulu too, which is, sometimes I don't get that audio description uploaded right away. But they did for this, so congratulations. The pilot is longer than a typical episode, so heads up on that. It does run longer than an hour. You're basically sitting there watching a mini movie for your first episode, and so just allow that kind of time in your life. It really wants to immerse you in the experience of feudal Japan and fiefdoms and samurai and all that kind of stuff. There is a character. We don't worry. We have our white savior. I don't know that he's really a white savior though. He's just the white guy that American audiences can live vicariously through as he explores a almost entirely Japanese cast. We do have Nestor Carbonell, who pops up in the pilot playing a Spaniard. It's sort of a spoiler because he pops up, I would say, halfway through the episode. I don't know, it's a deep spoiler because, again, this is the first episode, so you're supposed to kind of watch more than this. So something that happens halfway through the first episode is not really, Anyway, so there's a guy, Cosmo something. I don't know who he is. Welcome, Cosmo, to the team. That's our British guy. British sailor gets marooned in Japan, and he finds himself sort of getting pulled into this world that he can't speak their language, and he needs translated, and he's very bullish, and he kind of ends up leaving his crew behind. They think they're pirates, and there's a lot about Catholicism that's thrown in here too, and how Catholicism has already reached Japan. So somehow Christian Ministries already got to Japan and introduced them to Catholicism. He sees the cross and he's like, I'm not with them. That's not me. But I have every full belief that he cannot possibly rise to status of white savior because they're keeping him on a very tight leash. I think he's just here for like relatability, because I think FX was worried that its American audience, wouldn't watch a show that was completely subtitled otherwise. And for us blind people, they did us the solid of having one narrator do all the voices, which I gotta say is delightfully awful. It's just... okay, so I know there's the argument about like what we get is dubbing, and like creatives are like, oh, dubbing is terrible. It ruins the actors. We shouldn't be dubbing foreign. Listen, it is subtitles, but there's something to be said for the fact of when you have one person and this much, it kind of gets like into run-on sentences, and you're kind of like, who? It's really hard to track conversations when it sounds like the same dude is talking to you the whole time. It is, because not only is this guy doing like basic audio description of like what's around him, like what's the location, what are these people wearing, Oh shit, someone just got decapitated, all those kind of things. But then he has to read the dialogue for every Japanese character in this series. And by the way, I think I mentioned that's like everyone but two people. I mean, there's some sailors on the dude's boat, but they don't really do. They they're not in that much, and they just kind of have that kind of like crowd of, like, oh, hey, no, don't do that. Leave me alone. Like just kind of dialogue. Anyway, yeah. So the substantial dialogue is done by um, by Japanese people, and they kept it in the original language. They didn't do this thing where they have Japanese people in Japan speaking English for no particular reason. They really wanted to get the realism here. Problem with that is you got a guy. I don't know if he's Asian descent. I did see somebody else made a comment about how it would have been nice. I don't know. I don't want to make an assumption about this dude's voice. By the Because of this guy's voice, he could be like second generation, grown up in America. He is very American. This dude definitely does not reside anywhere but in America. I will say that. So there isn't a hint of an accent in this dude's voice at all. And I don't actually have a problem with him as a narrator. I like his voice. I think he did Fargo. But the problem is when he is the only narrator for the entire project, it's maddening. It is absolutely mad. I really wanted to like Shogun. I really did. But it is absolutely insane in some of those parts when you have like multiple characters talking to each other and he's having to read all of the subtitles, and you have like characters that kind of talk on top of each other too. You get in a conversation where people interrupt, and then he just keeps kind of reading, and you're like, I can kind of hear the actor in the background, which helps a little bit, but it's really confusing. This is not the best audio described series that we could find right now. This is an example of how not to do international dialogue, although I want more international content to be described, so I hate calling it out because we get so little of it. It's like finally being offered a diamond, and then you're like, but it's really small, or something. Like, I don't know. What's the one thing that you always wanted your whole life, and then you finally get it, and you're like, oh, but other people get that thing, It's like your parents are like, we're going to Disney World, and then you like go to Disney World, but it's like 30 minutes before closing. And like you're like, but everybody else got to be here the whole day. I don't know, it feels like that. It's just like I want so much more international content described, but who passed this? Who is the quality checker for this? Is this company too poor to hire even one more person? This dude is reading the women. He's not even reading just the male characters. He's narrating everybody. So not only does he have to do his own narration, but he also has to narrate all of the male Japanese characters and all the female Japanese characters. This is insane. We have to fix this. It's absolutely, this is, audio description rarely ever factors into my grading in a heavy way. And honestly, it just makes a film accessible. But I mean, we're talking about like audio description. Typically, when I'm grading, good or bad audio description might move it up a point from like a B plus to a B or a B plus to an A minus. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it moves it slightly. Like bad audio description could take a film that I don't like and move it down one. If I don't like a D plus film and the audio description is terrible, it might go to a D. If it's really offensive and like TTS and stuff, maybe a D minus. It doesn't really move the needle. But this audio description is just the series. I want to like it. I really do. I think there's a lot of craft here. I'm all about representation. I love the fact that they're in Japan speaking Japanese instead of in Japan speaking English, like in Memoirs of a Geisha or something like that. But oh my God, this is the wrong thing. This is the wrong way to do it, guys. One dude for everything? No. At least he's human. If this had been like some AI voice, like droning out all of this, I would have broken my television set. I don't know. I have no idea. Um, please don't do this again. Word to the audio description community: how kill this with fire. Whatever this is, whatever you thought you were trying to do here, please don't ever do it again. This is insane. There are way too many characters. One of my complaints about the show would be taking, let's write the audio description. Does the pilot work? It has a huge cast. I didn't quite really get a grasp of who the lead was or what anybody's motivation was, because it's telling a really broad story with a lot of people, which is a lot of shows are doing that now. They introduce like a billion characters all at once instead of introducing them slowly over the course of time. And it's kind of like, who's the lead? Who are these people? There are characters in here. I don't know if they're, am I supposed to follow them? Am I supposed to care about who is the lead in this show? I don't know. I really do not know. It can't be the British guy. I just feel like his path and his story, it just can't be him. He might still be a major player for us, just to connect us again as American audiences. But I think there's an actual story that's happening in Japan that happens without him. There's a lot of talk about giving up somebody, and people are, one dude has like 5 wives and he has to return the mother of the heir or something like that. I don't know. But I had a really hard time following the bajillion characters that are in this show. And then on top of that, it's one dude speaking as all of them. So I'm going to give Shogun, which honestly, this grade is affected heavily by the audio description, but I'm giving it a C. Yeah. To be honest, though, if it didn't have audio description, I would give it unwatchable. So which grade would you rather hear? C, average, or unwatchable? So think about that. There you go. Anyway, that's my pilot review of Shogun. Check it out on FX and tell me what you think. But be ready. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'll be back with more pilot reviews. I want to do this more often, and I'll see you guys on the other side.